Hey, welcome everybody to the Freedom Bros podcast. Dustin's already drinking his energy drink. Here we go.
Let's go. Let's go. This one's
I
going to be
am
a good
Greg
one.
Pruitt, Freedom Bro number 1, joined by my co-host Dustin Hurst, Monster Freedom Bro number 2, and we've got a really awesome show tonight. We're going to be talking about the ballot initiative to rig Idaho's elections. Can I say
There
that?
we go. There's no other way to say that. There's no other way to say that appropriately.
Yeah, we're already banned off YouTube for saying that. Oh well.
Yep.
Oh well. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. With that, we're going to roll our brand new. What do you call this? Intro video.
Intro. I don't
Stinger.
know.
No, stinger. That's the right word. Stinger.
Yeah,
Let's roll stinger for the Freedom Bros. Dude,
that as the kids say, that slaps. That slaps hard. I think that's what the kids say. I don't know.
That's fire, man. That's fire, bro.
Bet. Whatever that means. That was
bring
cool.
my kids up so they can feel me hit on the rest of it. Oh gosh, awesome. Well, so tonight we are going to be talking about ranked choice voting. We're going to bring on a special guest here in just a minute, and I think the elections. It's funny. Elections are already complicated enough half the time, and now we got to bring in this whole ranked choice voting issue, and that's what we're talking about tonight. And I kind of thought it might be a good idea to roll a 1-minute video that I found online that gives the most generic and basic explanation of ranked choice voting. So did you want to add something before we roll that video?
No, we have lots of thoughts on this, but we do need to set a foundation because it is very confusing, and that's by design. So let's set that foundation, then we'll go into what the hell is wrong with it.
Okay, here, so let's roll this video. It's about a minute long.
Ballot, you'll see a list of candidates. For this example, instead of candidates' names, we'll use colors.
Can we use cats and bunnies instead?
Okay. On your ballot, you'll see the list of candidates repeated in 3 rows. Your job is to vote for your favorite candidate, just like before, but also to vote for your second and third choice, too. There, you're done.
Easy, and that's all there is to it.
On the voting side, yes. The counting side is where it can get interesting.
What do you mean?
If any one candidate gets over 50% of the votes, that's it. They win. But if no one breaks the 50% mark, as usually happens with so many candidates in the race, there is what's called an instant runoff. Cats are in the lead now, but under 50%. Spiders came in last, so they're out, but everyone who ranked spiders number 1 will have their next choice redistributed and added to the overall tally. Now it looks like lizards are last, so they're out, and everyone who ranked them first has their second choice added. This process happens as many times as it takes for one candidate to get over 50% of the total votes.
Okay, so that is the 1-minute explanation. Some news program put that out. I can't remember exactly who it was. We'll have it. I'll put the full video. The video is like a minute and a half, so I just cut off a little bit of it. But that is the most simple explanation. And I like that they use the word redistribution in there. Because it fits along nicely with what they really want to do. So, yeah.
The interesting thing about this, I think, is, well, there's a lot of things, but the question I think I would have for you, Greg, is why now? Why is this going on? Why is it going to be on the ballot? I have theories. I would love to hear your theories, because I bet they're the same, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Well, in order to do that, or before we get to that, I guess we'll bring in our special guest, Representative Dale Hawkins. Bring him on real quick. And, I guess right out the bat, we should mention that Representative Dale Hawkins, you introduced the bill that ended up banning ranked choice voting in Idaho. So I guess right out the gate, everybody should know, and that got signed into law. So Idaho has actually banned it. And what this ballot initiative seeks to do is to overturn the essentially the law that just passed. So
that's correct. I mean, I carried it in the House, through committee in the House, and then Representative Zeiderfeld carried it in the Senate, got it through the Senate, and much to our surprise, it was signed. But so it goes into law, and I think I actually technically July 1st. And then I think before the ink was dry, we started hearing the rumors of a known political activist organization filing to try to get this on the ballot.
So I guess in introducing your bill, what was the primary reason? I mean, I can assume what it was, but I guess let people watching know what was the main reason you were like, hey, we've got to attack this right now.
So to be honest, I mean, it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, "Oh, we got to stop ranked choice voting," because like so many other people, at the beginning of the session, I don't know that I fully understood it. There are aspects of it now that I don't know that everyone understands, but basically, the Idaho's Republican Party uh, did it during the I think it was the winter meeting, did a resolution calling for this ban, which was also in line with this. I think the across the United States, the broader RNC was doing the same thing. So uh, I had been talking with Dorothy, and I carried that basically for the party. I mean, they gave me the basics. I had to go to LSO. They had to get it into Idaho language, and we went from there. And there it was a little bumpy how to get it all the way through because being a freshman, I wasn't sure of the process, and you're waiting for LSO to get back to you, and it's taken a while, and the chairman of the party's calling me and saying, "What's taking so long?" And I'm like, "It's all in motion, and I didn't know that you could apply a little pressure and they made me move a little quicker. I found that out when I said, I need that by tomorrow. And they actually did it, but I waited quite a while before that took place. And then we, got it through the state affairs, which was a welcome fresh air for me to go into state affairs because sitting in the House Education Committee, I hadn't seen such cooperation in a committee before, and so that was delightful. And from there, you guys know the rest of the story how it made it through.
So Representative Hawkins, when you presented the bill, what did you say to the committee? What was your foundational argument against ranked choice voting? I don't know where Greg went. I hope he's okay. But he just Freedom Road disappears, I guess. But what was your argument for this bill, for this ban? Why is ranked choice voting so toxic and so destructive?
Well, if you do just a little bit of research in the states where they're using it, California, I think they're using it on the East Coast, a couple places. Nevada was using a form of it, but just now this last year elected it in a statewide process.
Right.
Alaska, when they brought it in there was tens of millions of dollars of outside money that came in and campaigned. As a matter of fact, as soon as I got it through committee and it became public, I was getting phone calls from Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, other states.
Wow.
I think even South Dakota. People were like, "We want to help you do this." People in Alaska were like, "You got to protect Idaho." So when I went into the committee, State Affairs Committee, my basic reason for this was to preserve Idaho's voting the way we know and understand it, because ranked choice voting brings a lot of complexities into the election booth that most people in Alaska, they didn't even know what to do. People that didn't understand the process because it's convoluted and ripe for manipulation. I don't know how else to say it. It's how red states go blue.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a good tagline. Have you ever thought of a career in marketing? That's great.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
So I guess, and before we get into maybe the nefarious reasons behind it, the ranked choice voting thing is always fascinated me because in a regular election, people care the most about presidential politics, right? And then maybe the governor and your U.S. senators and congressmen, and then you get down to like state legislators, and people are like, half the time they think you work in D.C., right?
Yep.
so and I'm like, now we're going to take that whole process into the primary with, and that's what they want. It's basically a big jungle primary where it's Republicans and Democrats, and I'm Constitution Party, and Dustin's a Libertarian, and everybody's just this one big blob of people, and we're the top two are going to make it onto the, into the next round and stuff. And I mean, so the like you're talking about, the confusion that's going to come from this as massive. And even in states that have it, or cities that have it, I should say, a lot of bigger cities have this. Everybody's just confused. They don't quite understand what's happening. And somehow the guy that has 40% ends up losing to the person that had 24 because of how the votes get retabulated and stuff. I mean, it's just absolutely insane.
So in your video there, which was, we'll just say it was unique.
It was the only short one I could find. I wasn't a big fan of the
people don't realize that when they're casting their votes, plural, which is new. Well, let's back up. The first thing that has to happen is, so the Idaho Republican Party, which is a private organization that has a closed primary, because we as Republicans are picking who we want to go forward to represent us to save the republic. First thing that has to be done is they got to do away with that.
Yeah.
Because you can't have closed primaries and have ranked choice voting. See, that's part of the catch here. So that will be the first attack, or it might be all just part of the one attack. So once they go in there and they go into a booth, like you said, there's this myriad of different people running, and you're picking first choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and then your votes are being reassigned in the instant runoff process. It's not like they're calling you back into the voting booth and saying, these are the top 5, revote, these are the top 3, revote. That's not happening. They're doing that for you.
Yeah.
And we all trust whoever they are. So,
well, like I said, you barely do enough for one or two candidates, right? The Republican. So, I know in some of, and I don't know exactly how this one's intended to be set up, but if it's, be like Republican leaning or Democrat leaning or, or whatever, they're going to look at one or two guys and that's going to be the two main ones. And everybody else are like, I don't know, I'll just kind of put this one in there. They're not really educating themselves on 10 candidates versus the 2 or 3 that you typically see in a primary.
Right. And it's going to cause a devastating effect. I mean, because those unstudied candidates, if there's a movement to give them some votes, those people can move up that instant runoff ladder, and you can wind up with someone that you didn't know anything about. And
yeah,
it's terrifying to think about. I mean, other states, I didn't study Alaska politics prior, but
really,
yeah. Well, never mind. We won't go there. But other than maybe some vice president candidates and stuff like that. But through this process, that state has lost ground, tens of millions of dollars. Of everyone likes to refer to the dark money. I don't even like to call it that, because people should be able to put their money wherever they want, I guess, and as a First Amendment freedom of speech right. But it is tons of outside money that came in. So some of these from Alaska and Montana, the people that called me, they were organizing groups. They were willing, like if we were having some kind of pushback, they were willing to come on, remote testify. They were all ready to line up and testify how bad this is. Now, luckily, Montana passed a prohibition as well. I think South Dakota did as well, and I can't remember. I think somebody else did. I don't remember. But this is states where we're trying to hang on to the republic. This isn't just a conservative Democrat thing. This is, are we going to have a Republican form of government, not the party, but the kind the founding fathers gave us, a representative government, or are we going to head down this spiral of the language that everyone likes to use and call it a democracy, which we know is mobocracy. And that's what ranked choice voting does, in my view. It will destroy Idaho's integrity in its elections. We just won't have it anymore. What we have of it now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's in talking to, I guess, people from Alaska and some of these other states, for those people that are watching right now, what have they said from that? Like, they're saying that it's ruining their state and the liberals are moving in and stuff, but have they talked about how the complications, or what has been the result of that?
So the group that got a hold of me from Alaska said, some of the stuff I've already voiced. When the voters went into the booths, even though they had tried to do some education and stuff, they were totally confused. They weren't sure of what they were doing. They didn't mark, like if there was however many there was, they didn't even mark all the choices because it wasn't something that people were used to. When we go into a booth in America, normally you have a selection of people that you're going to vote for and you check one. So just the concept of checking multiple boxes, first choice, second choice, third choice, was extremely confusing to people. And basically they've said that it's leading to the destruction of their state. They feel that their voice will never be heard now, and that any hopes of regaining any conservative type values, whether they be conservative, constitutional, libertarian, however they fall, they think that they're losing grip. They've lost that. Didn't mean to stutter there.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Dale, on the floor and in committee, obviously there were people who voted against this. My guess is the entire Democrat Party did. What were their arguments in defense of ranked choice voting?
So interesting fact, I got in committee in the State Affairs Committee once when I brought the RS, and then the second time, just some very general questions from the Republican Party folks. When this went to the floor, I gave a brief synopsis of what I believed about it. There was nothing said at all. They went right down party lines.
Wow.
Okay. That's interesting. That's usually not the case. I mean, obviously party line voting is very common, but nothing. I mean,
Nada.
is John McCrosty still there? I mean, he likes to talk. I mean, where Ilana Rubel, nothing. I mean, she's very
Nothing.
smart.
Yeah,
nothing?
she is. She did not, nothing. No word
Okay.
salad from anybody. And because that's all they could have done was produce a word salad of confusion.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's such a convoluted topic, and you really have to dive into it to understand the nuances of. And there's different versions of ranked choice voting out there, right? And so, they probably didn't feel too confident in maybe defending it in either direction, to be honest. But I think you're going to see that change. I think now that there's a ballot initiative, and you've got these Republicans who are out there. Pushing the ballot initiative, and I've seen some of the activists, the liberal Republican activists, already mobilizing, trying to help push this narrative that ranked choice voting will save money because there will be an instant runoff, right? And we don't have to do a runoff election, and it'll make it more. In theory, the funny thing is, in theory, the third party candidates tend to benefit a little bit more, maybe, or more, the more outside candidates have a better shot under the system. And that's,
here come the libertarians. Here we come.
And that's not because all of a sudden people are like, hey, I think it's a byproduct of, okay, I know this person because they've spent $50,000 in the race. I know this one. And these other three, like, I don't freaking know, like, sure, whatever. And all of a sudden those votes start getting moved around, and then some guy that was in fifth ends up in second or something, so.
And remember, this isn't just lining up, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. There can be several of those same parties on that same ballot. So I think part of this is what I'm going to bet that we're going to hear, because we've been hearing it for a while. Like in our local central committee, we had a gal come in that argued that by having a closed primary, we are shutting out her voice. We're not allowing her to vote. So people's concepts of what a primary is and isn't is very convoluted.
Oh yeah.
They think that by the Republican Party having a closed primary, we're closing them off. Well, that's a fact. We are. But we're not closing them off from their pick for the general election in November.
Correct.
We're closing them off from the Republican Party. They can create their own party and pick whoever they want.
Sure.
But their argument is, because we're a closed primary, we're taking away their right to vote. So this will be, you'll hear this kind of argument.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I guess let's start getting into the weeds here a little bit. A few years ago, I was listening to video, and Luke Mayville from Reclaim Idaho was talking about something. This was a few years ago, and somebody asked him about this particular ballot initiative years ago. They've been plotting this for quite a while, and they were like, "Well, what do we the Republicans are closing their primary. Isn't it time to do a ballot initiative to just force it to be open?" And this is the liberals all plotting and saying, "Hey, how do we get into the Republican primary?" To your point. And so, I mean, this has been a long time coming, I think. And they're not. And the funny thing is, their argument is, well, the primary is basically the election. Well, sorry, move to another state,
Yep.
or move to a district where Democrats have control.
Or come up with better ideas that you can sell here in Idaho, because your communism doesn't sell here, and voters aren't buying what you're selling. Like, that's a fact. Like, you're trying to force your ideas upon us by changing the game, not by coming up with better ideas, right?
No, they're convoluting and confusing the narrative, which it makes it easier for them to be able to initiate some kind of Marxist ideology into the whole thing. Yeah. And most voters, like you said, it's I don't think voters are unintelligent. I think people are consumed with life. They're working, raising kids, and doing family and recreating and all those other things. And it's hard for people to keep up with what's going on. But at the same time, I believe that's by and large why we're where we're at, because this country had some great times, and people took their hand off the steering wheel. They said, I elected these people to go drive, but they weren't paying any attention where the vehicle was going. And now I think people are waking up. Good people are waking up going, how did we get here? Well, and there are some things like this we're going to have to stop. I mean, it's confusing to me. July 1st, it'll become law that you can't do that here. But through Idaho's initiative process, they can overturn said law, but it still has to make it through the legislature, which, remind you, party lines. I don't think we had one Republican defecting vote in this arena this time.
Wait, Jeff Schroeder even voted? Wow. Really?
I think, well, I wasn't in the Senate. But
I'm going to go look. I have a hard time believing that. I'm so sorry.
But I'm pretty sure it was party.
What was your bill number? I forget.
179.
Okay, I'll be right back.
So yeah, but here's the thing. Now that the initiative is launched, again, the very liberal Republicans are going to start hearing the line of, this is how we keep the extremists out of Idaho, right?
Yep.
Because now we can throw liberals in all over the place, mix that all up, and you really won't have a good, firm grasp on who is who. Because the Democrats are still going to have to identify as Republicans, right? Or it's going to end up like California, where in California, 4 people make it out of the primary and they're always Democrats, right? And so Republicans are just getting completely clobbered in California. And so Democrats enjoy that. And it would, to some extent, be the same way in Idaho, but they're still going to have to identify as Republicans in order to win, but it will make it much easier, to do that, I think.
Yes,
system, so.
It's diluting the system.
Wow, it was party line through both houses. That's actually that surprises me.
They didn't know better, obviously,
and they probably didn't argue over there either that I'm aware of. I don't remember Lenita saying anything about it being a hard push. So,
okay, sure. I'm okay, cool.
Yeah, but this really, Representative Hawkins, this is following the Colorado model that I've been talking about for like 7 years now. Is they went into Colorado, who had a Republican governor, 2 Republican U.S. senators, most of their congressmen were Republican, and both chambers of their state house were controlled by Republicans. And in 10 years, they changed the game in Colorado, right? They spent money, they went after the right races, they changed the laws, and just went on the full-on offensive. And that's what this is doing, right? They're going on the offensive, going, okay, we can't win in elections like this. We have to change the election process in order to win. And that's what the Colorado model is coming in, change the game, make it harder, convolute everything, make people confused. And then in the end, they win, and then they flip the game in their own direction. right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Rocky Mountain heist,
Correct.
and I've been telling people right now that the Gem State heist is in full effect. When you look at people, and I don't want to speak too broadly, I think Representative Nate spent about 40 grand in his race.
Yeah.
Over, if you add the PAC money, over $200,000 spent against him,
Yeah.
and he still only lost by 36 votes. But it just shows you the disparity of how much money some people are willing to spend to unseat good conservative representatives who truly care about the people that they represent. That I look at a guy like Ron, who I've gotten to know a little bit over the years. His interests are the documents, the governing documents of the state and the country, and representing his people by those issues, and those are the people that they're going to go after. Uh,
Yeah.
what they do in District 2 up here, everyone tells us to brace for impact and start raising money. I am not good at that. It's some people are really good at it. They ask everybody they touch. Maybe I'll go take a lesson from uh, Senator Herndon or somebody who's capable, because he did really good at that,
Yeah.
and not so good. But others think that the district's so rural and so conservative that we don't have to worry as much. But I'm not going to rest on that.
Sure.
I'm trying to have a little bit of a pause here. That whole part-time legislator thing, and take a breath, fix the broken vehicles, make the garden work. Make sure things are good here, and then run out and do some more of that. So,
Dale, I'm curious. Now, I'm gonna say something that's gonna trigger most of our audience, including Brian Allman, who's watching with us. He and I go back and forth on Trump a little bit. I don't believe everything Donald Trump says about the election being stolen. I don't. I absolutely do not. However, I saw the movie 2000 Mules. I watched what happened in Arizona, which I don't think was widespread ballot stealing or whatever, but I think that there clearly are irregularities in our voting system. I think in 2020, laws were changed to allow Democrats to gain the upper hand against Trump. I think that there are cases of fraud both on the right and left. It just seems to me that this initiative will only make things, like you said, more confusing and have people um, place less faith in our system at a time when people are calling for, you know, paper ballots, to go back to paper ballots, which is a good idea, by the way. Um, People are saying, hey, this initiative comes along and says, hey, you already don't trust this system. Should we make it more complicated? I mean, like, what in the world is going on there? That, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. What do you make of that?
so I believe that whoever they are, the people who want to tear this republic down, I think that they have some goals when it comes to elections. Uh, they have the goal of getting the common American to feel or think that their vote doesn't count. And what happens when somebody doesn't think their vote counts? They stop voting.
Yeah.
So that's one of the goals there. And I think in some areas they've been successful, because I still meet people who say they don't vote. And I try not to be unpolite. But, as far as the whole cheating thing, I think there's been cheating in elections since there's been elections,
Yes.
Yeah.
all the way back to Rome. I mean, in both sides, right?
Oh,
It's not,
absolutely.
I may disagree with you a little bit. I think that, I'm not one who believes that they're necessarily cheating with the computer counting of votes, because I think the cheating is so perfected, and I think it's the injection of absentee ballots. I think the growing absentee ballot system helps that. The fact that all our voter rolls are online, when you look at the AI stuff that's going on and where everybody's being exposed to, and even the creators are getting nervous. But these AI systems, they've been able to use algorithms, and I don't understand all this stuff. I have a hard time getting through my smartphone, but they use these algorithms. They have systems that are able to basically not foretell, but within a very close, reasonable way, they can project where to inject ballots and where not to. And once those ballots are in the system, it's like, and I think if you've watched the movie, you know who the Dr. Franks guy is. He's the one that does all the graphing and all that. And
Right.
I heard him say something and it never occurred to me. All these recounts. Well, it's just like if you work at a store. No matter how many times you count the drawer, the number's going to be the same.
Right.
But counting the drawer doesn't tell you how much of the money is counterfeit. And if there is a way for people to inject absentee ballots into the system, mind you, what Trump can, I don't even know what all he says about it. But in the key areas that he lost, the percentages were very low. None of them were blowouts.
Right.
They were all very small percentages. I don't want to use the guy's name. I think there's some legal action going on right now. We have a prominent attorney that's retired in Idaho, lives in your area in southern Idaho. He was one of Trump's attorneys in Wisconsin. They found 220,000 illegal votes. They never sought to say fraud or anything. They just found 220,000 illegal votes.
Right.
They dropped them off at the court, and the court said, "Thank you very much." And that was the end.
Yeah.
Well, what did he lose by in Wisconsin? Under 30,000, somewhere around 30,000 votes. And they found 220,000 illegal ballots.
Right.
So there is big problems, and ranked choice is just going to add to the problem.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we've seen in the last, just even in the last month, we've seen the lengths that Democrats and people on the left and some people in the middle will go to cheat. I mean, literally the whole Russia, Trump is a Russian asset. And by the way, if it's not clear, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not. I think he did great work. But like the lengths that they went to go that they went to defeat Donald Trump, and this is just another piece of that. It's sowing confusion. It's making people less likely to want to vote. It just seems like we need to, in business and in anything in life, there's beauty in simplicity. Excuse me, and this is taking us the opposite direction. And I just can't get behind it. And they all say, oh, well, it rejects extremism. And you're going to see the word extremism 100 million times in Idaho papers between now and then. But really what it is this is the establishment saying, we absolutely know that the state, because of people from California largely, is going more conservative. And there's nothing we can do to stop it except for changing the game. Like, that's where we're headed. And it's sad that the establishment just can't give up their power that they've had forever. It's like, okay, guys, like you've had it for a decade or more.
Well, and that's why I mean, I guess to tie this in, I'm a very vocal proponent of getting rid of the ballot initiative completely. I had said a long time ago, if we don't get rid of it, they will use it to destroy our state. And there's still this, I don't know, segment of more even hardcore conservatives, like 20% of them, like within Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, for instance, if I post about that, well, no, we need to have a check on the legislature. And well, no, we might need it sometime down the road to pass one ballot initiative. And I'm like, we don't have the money. We don't organize like the left does.
Yep. And
they'll lie, cheat, and steal all day long to get their ballot initiative passed because they don't care. The ends justify the means, right? So
I have heard. Sorry, go ahead, Representative.
No, go on.
I have heard from a couple people that there are two more initiatives coming, and one may have already been filed. One, it's about legal marijuana, which as a libertarian, it's like, okay.
They run that one every year.
I actually have a different opinion on that these days, but we won't get into it. The other one is abortion. I've heard after the whole Kansas thing, I've heard that they're going to come after abortion here in Idaho. That might be the tipping point for people to say, okay, it's time to get rid of the initiative process, because if Idaho does anything well, it defends life and it defends guns. So they can't do the gun thing. They can't do that. So if they try and pass an abortion one and they get it through, the initiative will be gone the next session. Guarantee it.
Yeah. So let's not forget, even though they can get it through, the legislature can still kill this.
Yeah.
So the legislature still has the final word.
But no. You know as well as I do, there are people like Rod Furness out there who say, oh, well, we need to do the will of the people. The will of the people. Sometimes the people are wrong. It's like there was that online poll to name a boat in England a couple years back, and it ended up being named Bodie McBoatface. It's like, okay, like that's funny, but it's kind of also like Americans think that Taco Bell is a good Mexican restaurant, like it's the number one in the country. It's like, no, it's not. No, sometimes the people are absolutely dead wrong, and the Republic requires lawmakers to overturn the will of the people. Like, come on, you can't look at our populace today and say that they are right about everything. You just can't.
No, and we don't want to, that's direct democracy. That's not our form of government.
Yep.
And it's a delicate subject, especially as a legislator, to talk about. I represent approximately 53,000 people in Legislative District 2. And when I campaigned, the promise I made is I would represent them within the pillars and the confines of the governing documents. That's the Idaho Constitution and the Constitution of the United States. So if my constituents say we want free heroin, no. If my constituents say they want to legalize marijuana, I'm going to say, so you want to take the dealer from down the street and put him in the Capitol? Because that's what legalization essentially is to me.
Right.
Is to move the dealer to the Capitol. So there are some things that constitutionally we need to look at and understand how a republic operates. At the very beginning of the House Education Committee, they used the yardstick, and it's the very beginning of Article 9, and it talks about the reason for the public education system, and that is so that we have an electorate educated enough to maintain a Republican form of government. That's why we have schools.
Wait a second. Hold on. Just stop for a second. If that's the case, which it is, that's what the Constitution says. I want my money back. I want my money back right now.
I said at the very beginning, I said, if we're here to uphold this and go down this path, I'll go everywhere with you. If we're here to form a different form of government or go a different way, I'm not on. Because that's what they're doing. They're trying to change it everywhere. Yep. The House Ed Committee, obviously education has not done that, because if you go ask a graduating high schooler, they can't even tell you what form of government we have accurately. Yeah. And that's the test. That's what we're supposed to be funding. So you're right. Language, words have meaning, and all this stuff, like the hate's going to come out. What was the thing I heard the other day? Oh, I'm politically violent. That's what I was accused of being. And there's some leadership council group.
Oh, Idaho Leaders United. We can get into that another time.
Yeah, but they're calling people like me extreme right, politically violent. Last time I checked, I watched the Burning Cities on TV. I wasn't there. And so things are changing. We've got to stand firm, stand up, and say no.
Yeah.
And ranked choice voting is one of them.
Greg, I'm curious. I think we're good on this, but I do want to ask Representative Hawkins a few other questions, if you're okay with it.
Oh, wait a minute, that's not on my list here.
Oh, too bad. This is an ambush. This is gotcha journalism. Okay. No. Okay. So you are a first-term lawmaker. You kind of are like the average Joe, the everyday man going to the Capitol. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, right? What was your biggest surprise during your first year in the Idaho legislature as a state lawmaker?
So I've been asked these questions before, and they never go well for me.
Oh no! But be honest. I mean, honest as you can be.
I've been involved in the party for like 10 years. I ran as a precinct committeeman, eventually became vice chair of our central committee, and was chairman for 5 years. Matter of fact, I had to force the central committee to get somebody else, because when I got elected to office, they were all like, well, you could do both, right? No, I can't. I'm not gonna, So I had been down to the Capitol a lot, been to the political functions with the party, and I'd seen what I thought was some of, I don't want to, just blatantly say corruption, but the inner workings, how the game's played.
Right.
When I got there, it was so much worse than I ever imagined.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the first month in my regular daytime committee, the House Ed Committee, it was 4 to 5 weeks of well, I call it propaganda now, but all we did was sit through event after event after event. Never saw a bill, never anything.
Right.
Yeah.
You hear all the interest groups, the Idaho State school boards association, the
All the
superintendents group.
bureaucracies.
Yeah,
know,
all the
they come
bureaucracy,
through.
the unions, the associations, they are given preference. You know, what's interesting, who you didn't hear from probably was parents. I mean, obviously parents came in to testify, but there was never, and there never is, time for parents to come in and talk about schools. It's kind of interesting.
Yes. So one of the unfortunate facts of government today and access, I mean, for my legislative district, I'm their access. That's part of the way it's supposed to look.
Right.
But you're right. It's lobby groups and bureaucracies and the common folk. They don't get a shot.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. I want to point out, like, and I don't mean to bring up my former employer, but it's only select lobby groups, right? Citizens Alliance of Idaho doesn't get a special presentation time in front of any committee. Idaho Freedom Foundation does not. Idaho Second Amendment Alliance does not. We have to fight tooth and nail to get in front of committees. But you know, the teachers union, just because they can, you know, spend a lot of money to get people out of office, they get a special privileged time with Julie Yamamoto and you guys. It's the weirdest thing.
Every day for about 5 weeks, it was presentation after presentation. I mean,
So
that's
how
what
much-
they are.
How much Minesweeper did you play on your computer while those were going on?
You know, I got there, and one of the things people kept telling me is, don't stare at your phone. Don't stare at your phone. Your constituents will think you're doing stuff on your phone. You're not paying attention. But at the same time, I'm trying to communicate with other lawmakers like, what the world is this? You know, where did it come from? But I did in time learn to ask the right questions, you know, when they're trying to do their presentations. And
Right.
because they try to make everything sound normative and this is the way it is. I finally got one of the superintendents from one of the larger school districts to admit, and I need to go back and clip this, that they graduate students not at grade level. They use a matrix of achievement.
Yep.
So as long as there's growth, there's achievement, they can, so what are we, 30 and 40% in reading and math, and you are, even at that level, you're not getting your money's worth.
Yep.
You know, at least the charter schools, even though they're still public schools, are held to a little higher accountability. But that would be the biggest shock I had, that it was worse than I thought it was. It was a little bit hard in the beginning because House Ed just seemed, it was awful. I mean, and in my mind, I'd run into some of the people I know, and how'd your day go? Oh, better than I deserve. And I'm like, where was he all day, you know? And but then when I went into other committees, because I had to carry stuff or something, I was like, oh, it works different, you know? So different people were having different experiences. And we held the line and best we could in the House Ed Committee, not very well. But in all the accusations that we're going to hear in the future, like you guys were talking about, I try to remember one thing that I've learned. It seems, and I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago, the opposition to a good republic and those who are conservative, and when I say conservative, I'm not singling out of that group libertarians or constitutional people, you know, people who value the republic, people who want to keep the republic. I learned that the opposition to our side of the aisle, I'll say, if they're accusing you of something, it's usually the thing that they are doing.
Yeah, projection, 100%.
And we saw this with Trump, and there were, you know, I wasn't a Trump guy. I mean, I did vote for him as a, you know, in the general, but he wasn't my primary pick, you know, the first time around.
Right.
And but all the things he was accused of, you know, I kept saying to my wife and others, I'm like, you watch. This is going to come out that this is what they were doing. And I watched it in Idaho now. I watched a certain individual get on and get an interview at one of the Boise's, and what did they say? What the heck is it? Barn bird, cow bird, some kind.
Oh, yeah.
Where they were claiming that we're coming in, these radicals are coming in and taking over the Republican Party. I'm like, crap, they're doing it right here in our backyard.
Yeah.
You know, because so it's everywhere.
Well, it's much like I saw that. I know the lawmaker you're talking about. I'll say it. You don't have to. Julie Yamamoto was that. It's and Brian Holmes, who we hate around here. I'm just. It's true. He's terrible. He acted as if Julie Yamamoto is some standard of republicanism, like she is this vanguard of the Republican Party. she's a liberal. She's a liberal. Brian, ask the question, what makes you so conservative? Because she's not. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I always see with that is like, we always see the projection of, hey, the people that are most uncivil are the right wingers. No, it's those who are, in power and they're hiding it. They're the most uncivil. So I agree. The things that they say we're doing, they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start wrapping it up here. But I wanted to ask you, Representative Hawkins, and bringing this back to the ballot initiative. This is huge. This is by far, as of right now, the abortion one would certainly trump this in some regard.
But
What has been what's that?
But would it, like, which one is more important?
I don't know.
I'm
I mean,
very
that's what I'm saying.
curious.
Like, obviously, saving babies is the most important thing, but like the damage that this would do would be monumental and massive.
Yeah, you lose control of your
So
election.
yeah, you would lose control of everything.
Everything. So,
What has been the reaction in your district so far from your constituents when they heard ballot initiative ranked choice voting? Were they like, "What the heck is that?" Or like, "We don't want that"? Or what's been the reaction so far?
amazingly enough, when people, like, I was at some events where Dorothy Moon was at, and she talked about, myself and the senator that got this through, and she was giving us just heaps of praise, freshmen getting such a large thing through. And when I come back and people actually ask me, ranked choice, what most people don't know what it is.
Correct. Yeah.
So the approach they're going to use in this initiative is to use that other language.
Mhm.
Do you think that your voice should be stifled? What they're going to go after our closed primary, they're going to use language, and they're not going to explain this. They're not
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
do you want an election system like they have in China or somewhere else, or 11 counties in California, or they're not going to say that. They're going to use the right maneuvered language to make
Yeah.
people think, no, this is good. We all have to have a voice,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because most people don't understand what it is. I mean, ask you guys a question. Before these things came up, did you understand it? And do you completely understand it now?
Yeah, I don't know that I understand all forms of the ranked choice voting, but I had to do some homework before. I mean, I had a general idea of what it was because I saw what happened to Sarah Palin in Alaska,
Right.
and I was like, "What? And how in the world did she not win?" And then you start, "Oh, okay, that's how come she didn't win." And so, yeah, I know, but 100%, no, I'm not going to claim that I understand it all 100%. So,
Right. But I mean, for common people who are busy working and this isn't their realm, they're
Right,
not
yeah.
the political thing every day. I've had them say, "What is this thing?" They don't even understand it. I mean, they're
Yeah.
happy it passed. In some places where they're a little more politically active, we did a town hall in Kootenai, and they asked, we talked about it, and there was great applause that it went through, but Kootenai County's a unique beast. They're a little bit more proactive.
Yeah,
it
They
is.
just
Yeah, it
changed
is.
out their library boards.
yeah,
that was
yeah, I
awesome.
saw
Conservatives
that.
have control of the library system now.
And
So-
I would say on this, there's going to be, you're right, there's going to be tons and tons of money flowing into the state. It's going to be a mess. We've seen it. There's going to be lots of out-of-state money, just like there was in Colorado. But I think the thing that people need to remember, and this is not in line with good argumentation, you want to debate the merits of it, but people by the friends that they keep, right? Look at the people who are shilling out for this, and that should tell you all that you need to know.
Yeah.
Because people like Ilana Rubel, I mean, she's a good person generally, but like she has really bad political ideas. Luke Mayville might be a good person. I actually don't know about that one, but like really bad political ideas. Look at the people who are endorsing this. Look at the money that's flowing to this side, that's going to flow, that's going to pay for the signature gatherers. Not good people politically. And that's I mean, that's huge. That's huge. Look at the company this initiative keeps.
Yep.
So that's something I probably have failed a little on,
Damn
because
it.
I knew that this initiative was gaining some steam, but I haven't looked into the who's and the what's.
No,
And maybe
yeah,
I
it's not
should,
good.
just in defense of trying to preserve what we've already gotten passed. It hasn't even taken effect yet.
What was it? Was it Bruce Newcomb that was kind of
Yeah.
leading the charge on this? See, Bruce Newcomb, he is the establishment. He's been in government for like a million years. He had a lobbyist job. He worked at the universities. Like, he is the inside. And you say, oh, well, he knows better than everybody else. No, that doesn't mean anything. It means that he knows that the establishment is about to lose its power, and he wants to save it for his buddies. And so his legacy is preserved. That's all this is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. By the way, let's go again too, and we'll talk about this with Andy Roth soon, the State Freedom Caucus guy. And I think you're a member of that. Thank you for doing that. But it doesn't matter. Like people need to wake up and understand that this is not. There are going to be Republicans on Luke Mayville's side here, because they understand what they'll get if they pass this. People need to wake up and understand what's really going on here. It's not good.
Dustin, I disagree with that in one point.
Oh no.
There are some Republicans that will go along with this because they know what they'll get, but they won't. They'll get burned, and they'll be out in the end, because that's what we see when Marxists take over. There'll be a lot of people with R's in front of their names that'll be on board, and they're no more Republican than Hillary Clinton is. I mean, they're just, unfortunately, in our capital, everyone says, well, what's it like to be in a totally Republican-controlled state? I laugh, giggle, because it's not, I mean, we've adopted the other side's language. When you talk about they're coming after the abortion issue, why do we use that word? This is a pro-life issue. That term has disappeared. Everybody uses the wrong language. We're a democracy. I from the floor of the House, I heard somebody say that we were a representative democracy or something.
Was it Britt Rabel? Because I feel like that's something she would say.
No, it was the head of the Democratic Party. So.
Oh, I'm okay. I expect that.
Yeah,
still not Britt Rabel though, right?
It's the same thing.
Oh, Representative Hawkins, it was a delight to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us, especially I know it's a late hour. And I know you don't love doing media stuff, but thank you for passing the bill, and thank you for talking with us.
Thanks for doing that. That was awesome.
Yeah, well,
I really appreciate having on.
We defend it and keep it.
Yeah,
we'll do our best.
Thanks for having a regular guy on. I didn't go put on a suit or a tie or even wipe the mud off my pants. So
you're dressed better than the hosts, which is
fun. You got the gym rat and the gun guy, so you're dressed however. So we're good.
I want to talk to that gun guy off live for a minute one day or whenever. So.
Give me a call tomorrow. We'll chat.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Have a good evening,
guys.
Thanks, Representative Hawkins.
Yeah, so this initiative is huge. I don't think people understand, and it's going to be hard. It's almost going to be complicated in some regard to get people excited about. Like you said, if it was abortion or guns, people are there. They're fighting. They're ready. Like, hey, we got to stop ranked choice voting. What does that even mean? So it's going to be hard, I think, for both sides, to be fair, to kind of get people to really be excited about it. But like you said, there is a lot of money coming in very soon.
Tons
from all over the place to make, because this would turn Idaho blue. 100%.
It really would. It would, and it wouldn't be slow. It would be 2 to 3 elections. You're done. Game over. See you later. And I think again, and this is where the right always has a struggle. The left has bad ideas, but their messaging is so easy. Like it's, hey, your voice isn't being heard. Evil Republicans in Boise don't care about you. This will fix that. And none of that is true. Not a piece of that. Well, okay, there are some Republicans who don't care about you, but not who you think. But the messaging on our side, the conservative side, is so much harder. But I do think it's there. I think you have to sow seeds of doubt using the confusion angle, because this is incredibly confusing. Trust in our electoral systems, not the people doing it, but the actual system of how we elect people. All-time low, and Republicans are, I mean, they are the lowest. They have the lowest scores in trust in these things. So I think it can be done. I think, Luke is going to try and go, 3-0. I don't think he's going to get this one, but it's on people like us and people like the people who watch this show to become advocates and talk about this everywhere, because if not, we're going to get creamed again, and Idaho's see you later. And I guess I'll be moving to like Alberta, Canada, or I don't know where I go
Oh,
after
gosh,
this. I don't know. Maybe
there's nowhere
Montana.
else to go, to be honest. This is it. Like
Yep.
we really got to be the last stand for everybody. So
Yep.
yeah, well, appreciate everybody tuning in. I forgot to mention, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Idaho Free YouTube channel, and you can get this podcast on Spotify. You can watch it on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube Live, as we are doing right now. If you guys are interested in becoming a sponsor for the show, reach out to me, Greg, Greg, at keepidahofree.org. We'd love to have some more support. And then be sure to share. Like, we got to get everybody sharing this show everywhere we can go. Our focus on this podcast is the 2024 election. Yes, we're going to bring up other topics throughout our weekly podcast, which we do at Thursday at 9 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 o'clock for you up north. But we really need to get this show in front of as many people as possible, because we're going to talk about the hard issues on this show. We're going to talk about the important issues. We're going to try and bring on people from all sides and just debate and duke it out and just have a good time. So,
and I would say, if there's something that you want us to talk about, maybe we know it, you don't, or maybe there's something that we need to learn about that would help you understand the 2024 election or Idaho politics generally, drop us a line, drop a comment or whatever. This show is an experience for us to learn together and to really understand the process, the people, everything involved. So if there's something you want us to touch on, if there's a guest you want us to get, we would love to do it. In the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about the State Freedom Caucus did a study about how legislatures actually act, and it's exactly what you think it is. But we're going to try to get Andy Roth on to talk about that. We're going to talk about this new group, Idaho Leaders United. We talked about them a couple of weeks ago, but there was an interesting and a very telling happening over the last week that kind of revealed who we think they are, and they kind of confirmed it. So that's coming up. But again, we want to know what you want to talk about, and we want to be able to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. All right, everybody, that's all we've got for tonight. Take care and God bless.